What's going on, my people? It is good to be back. This is a surprise episode. It's been a minute. I'm really tired. I've been grinding and working away, but I figured I owed you guys a couple of things as we get towards the end of the season. So welcome back to the Innsbrooke Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Sean Bell. And it is good to be back with you guys. Yes, we have so much to discuss because this league has decided that it's going to have some parity to it. So let's kind of go ahead and break down some things as we look into this and go over some scenarios here. So right now, Mr. Ken sits at the top at number 1, 8-5. Wood is number 2, 8-5. Taylor is number 3, 8-5. And Greg is number 4, 8-5. That's currently where we're sitting. Now, after that handful of 8-5 teams, we now go to a handful of 7-6 teams, where Jake is 7-6, Logan is 7-6, Lauren is 7-6, as well as myself, Sean, is 7-6. And then you have a handful of 6-7 teams. LB, Samson, Pon, and Zach are all 6-7. Now, mathematically, none of those guys are eliminated at this time. Now, we do have 4 teams, unfortunately, that are eliminated right now. That's Hunter, Eric, Joel, and Tyler. But all 4 of those guys are also at 5-8. So it's not like there was anybody that had a crash and burn season. There's not like a 1-win or 2-win team. Everyone was pretty close, and some of these guys beat some of the top-tier teams. Now, I've kind of wrote down some things as we go into the last week of the season to look at and keep an eye on. So the officially eliminated teams, the ones that are battling not to come in last, not to be the caddy for somebody, are your bottom 4, which is Hunter, Eric, Joel, and Tyler. Now, of those 4 teams, Tyler plays Lauren this week, Joel plays Samson, Eric plays Pon, and Hunter plays Mr. Ken. Now, what's crazy is I think in the matchups right now, Hunter is predicted to beat Mr. Ken. I believe Joel is actually predicted to beat Samson, which is big for a couple of reasons. I'll get to that in just a second. It looks like Lauren is actually projected to beat Tyler. And last but not least, Eric is actually projected to beat Pon, which is also important. So the reason I say a couple of those are very important to pick up and realize, if for some reason all 4 of those teams win, Tyler, Joel, Eric, and Hunter, there's a chance that Pon and Samson could both come in last place in the league still. But also, those 2 guys are still in a position to battle for a playoff spot. So there's a lot riding on this because if you look at it, Pon's points, I'm going to assume it's played by points for the record after the tiebreaker when it comes to that. Pon's points are on the lower side of things. I think he's at 1,354 on the season. If it's points 4, he's got one of the lower points 4, which would put him possibly in last, pending how it goes. Now, if Samson were to lose, there's a chance that Samson, depending on how the rest of them go, actually, I think Samson's going to be pretty safe. Looking at it, well, unless everyone else wins and Samson's the only one that loses, which would be very hard since Samson is playing Joel. One of them have to lose. But Samson does have less points than Joel. So if Joel beats Samson, there's a chance that Samson comes in last if the rest of these guys find a way to scrape out a win. So the last place spot is still not finalized. Still not finalized right now based off the predictions and the way it looks with everything. It looks like Tyler will have secured that last spot based off of that. But I'm hoping Tyler beats Lauren this week for a couple reasons. 1, I need Lauren to lose. It helps me get in the playoffs. But 2, Tyler winning can make things very, very interesting for last place. So there's some scenarios for last. So there are some guys that could still finish last. We were talking about that. LB, Samson, Pon, and Zach technically could still finish last. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. LB plays Greg, Samson obviously plays Joel, Pon and Eric play, and Zach and Taylor play. I really think that'll be an interesting scenario to see how that unfolds as we get through this week and go through things and get into the playoffs. This is probably one of the closest leagues I've ever been a part of as far as, one, the brotherhood behind it, but two, how much parity is in the league this year. It's unreal. And I think the funniest thing to it is one of the big offseason topics this year was, how can we make this league more fair, more even? What can we do to change the draft? How can we give players on more teams? What can we do to put some parity in here? And I think it's funny is we're talking about all these moves that we were going to make this offseason, and right now it seems this league has been more equal than ever. Mr. Ken came flying back into the picture to take over and make a strong stand, and he said, let me show you boys how this thing is ran. And this is what we got going. So let's dive in to what everybody wants. It's those playoff teams. Now, the playoffs are going to be absolute madness and chaos to see who gets in. Now, like I said, you have some teams that are already at 8 wins. I believe those teams are good. There are some scenarios where if, let's break this down. So your 8-win teams right now is Ken, Jordan, Greg, and Taylor. Now, there is a scenario to where if those guys lose, if Hunter beats Mr. Ken, I beat Wood, LB beats Greg, and Zach beats Taylor, if all 4 of those scenarios happen, there's a chance one of those 8-win teams could possibly be eliminated, pending how the rest of this shakes out. Now, the good thing is most of those 8-win teams have some high points for. Where it gets real interesting is Lauren has some high points for, and it gets real interesting in that regard is that maybe Lauren could knock one of them out pending how everything else falls. A big factor is we've got some 7-win teams. I think the game of the week right now, the one that has the most pressure, like head-to-head, is Jake versus Logan, because the loser of that one is possibly out. Whoever loses the Jake versus Logan matchup is possibly out. When you go to look at it on paper, right now, Jake is predicted to win pretty substantially over Logan. The thing that Logan has going in his favor is he does have a lot of points that he has scored this season. But he definitely, if he can squeeze out a win, that's huge. If he can eat that W like Jameis does. Then you got Logan, Jake. Obviously, that's big. You got Lauren and Tyler, me and Wood. I'm predicted to lose to Wood right now. Hey, Wood, you remember I drafted for you and helped you win a championship a couple years ago. The least you could do for the guy is help me get in the playoffs. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Totally kidding, by the way, guys. Don't fret. Maybe. Anyways, those are big ones. Tyler has a chance to play spoiler on Lauren. Lauren's right there at 7-6 with this group of 7 wins. Lauren's probably the next one that'll get a spot if he wins. There's a lot of scenarios. There's 6-win teams. Now, these 6-win teams could get in LB, Samson, Pon, and Zach. It's crazy to me that these guys, Samson, Pon, Zach, and LB, are either potentially in the playoffs or potentially in last place. That's so wild to me that's that big of a swing that could happen if they all lose or all win, which is going to be absolute chaos if all this happens. Now, LB plays Greg. Greg's an 8-win team. Like I said, Samson's playing Joel. Joel is at the bottom down there, but, you never know what could happen. Pon plays Eric, also down there at the bottom. And then Zach and Taylor, that'll be a pretty good one. Zach winning, he's got a lot of points for. He could actually, do some things, and potentially even Taylor's one of those ones that's got the lowest points for of the top tier teams, I guess. So he's one of those ones that's facing being pushed out after, riding the top of the mountain for this whole season. There are scenarios in place, okay? The few scenarios that you see in place is, me and Lauren could both win, which would make things interesting. And then the winner of Jake and Logan could win. And then that makes it to where, it'll be tight. It'll be tight because then you've got 6 8-win teams. So if Lauren or I win, here's how it'll go. If Lauren or I win, okay, and the winner of Jake and Logan, that'll be the playoffs. If that's how it shakes out. If Lauren or I win, and Jake or Logan, the winner of that's who will make playoffs. Now, the winner of Jake and Logan, obviously, will have 8 wins. Say both Lauren and I win, which will be tough. Lauren should get in over me, it looks like, over that spot. Now, this is where things get real interesting. Say both Lauren and I lose. Now we have absolute chaos. If Lauren and I lose, now there is a massive figure it out for that last 6 spot in the playoffs. So you'll have the loser of Jake and Logan that'll be in this mix. You'll have, if Lauren and I both lose, you'll have us both in the mix. And then pending what happens with LB, Samson, Pond, and Zach, if they win, they're also 7-6. So now you'll have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like a 7-way battle to get in for that spot. Now, of the 7-way like tie scenario, if you look at it, the teams that are the best bets to get in are Logan, Lauren, and Zach. Now, if we all finish 7-6 and there's that last spot, it's crazy that Zach has that big of a swing from 12-6 in 1 week just because of the points scored. So, the biggest thing that I need this week for me personally to happen is for Lauren to lose, for me to win, and I make the playoffs. It's quite simple. It's quite simple. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to word it. That's what has to happen. Now, I'm projected to lose right now. So if that happens, that puts me as one of those 7-6 teams, or those 7-7 teams, as I'll say. There's so many scenarios that could happen or take place in this predicament. I don't think I've ever been a part of a league with this much parity. I'm going to go through the week to week right now. I'm going to project who I think is going to win, and then we will close this bad boy out, and I will tell you my playoffs. So the first matchup I will cover, it's obviously going to be me versus Wood. That's what CD said versus the 206. Shout out to 206, our first year in the league. We're holding it down the best we can. We didn't have a great draft position this year. You know, we kind of took over last minute. Shout out to my boy Freebus here. We definitely miss you. I hated taking your spot. That was not fun. I didn't feel good about taking anybody's spot, but you will be back, sir. You will be back. And honestly, you'd probably be in a better scenario if you do. Your matchup right now, Wood's predicted to win 101-95 based off what we have in there right now. Bye weeks are absolutely terrible timing, the end of the year. I have some key people out that could really play a big factor for me. For example, Cortland Sutton and Ramondre Stevenson are both on bye week. Those are 2 of my top point scorers. That puts me in a very bad position going into this week. I literally picked up that rookie running back for the Raiders to start. That's the kind of scenario I'm in. Not good when you need a win to get into the playoffs. But you got Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson. I think they void each other out. I'm hoping that Russ gets in another shootout with Jameis Winston this week. That would be great. Kareem Hunt versus McCormick. You know, that really, you don't know what the Chiefs' backfield is right now. You don't even know what the Raiders' backfield is. The most interesting thing is it's Jahmyr Gibbs versus David Montgomery. So we're pretty much voiding each other out there in the running back game. Then it gets even more interesting. It's A.J. Brown versus Devontae Smith. Like, you've got that kind of going, and it's wild. We've got a lot of similar players that are hand in hand with one another that could play a big effect on how all of that goes. Then, you know, Tyreek Hill, I've got him sitting there. MVS is starting for me. Brock Bowers has been a big X factor for him this season. I'm kind of jealous. The 2 tight ends that I drafted thinking I was going to be kind of witty with it, getting Kyle Pitts and Kincaid have both kind of folded this year, as always. My kicker just got ruled out today, so I had to go pick up old Daniel Carlson. And, yeah, what an interesting matchup. There could still be some changes that take place in this. I'm still weighing on if I want to start Sam Darnold versus Atlanta and which tight end I want to put in. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. But, you know, Wood, I appreciate you possibly putting me out of my misery this week. Now, as we go back to the scoreboard here to look at our next matchup, we have America's team versus Slobberknockers. Right now, Hunter is predicted to win 113-105. If this stands, this is big for Hunter because Hunter would officially take himself out of last place contention. You got an interesting battle. You got Jameis Winston versus Brock Purdy at quarterback. Two guys that America loves, I think, especially Jameis with the speeches. It's crazy to me that, Hunter's got Saquon Barkley sitting here and he's at the record he's at. He's just caught everybody on their best week possibly. The running back room for Hunter is much better since Mr. Ken is CMC-less now. That definitely hurt him, losing CMC. It's going to be interesting to see if CMC can bounce back and do what he did in the past. This will be interesting. I do think this will be a lot closer, one of the closer games. But I see Hunter pulling out this win right here, just simply based off Saquon Barkley possibly outscoring both teams. You'll kind of have a clue what Mr. Ken is doing after Thursday when Green Bay and Detroit play. So I'm going to go – I pick Hunter there. I pick Hunter to win. I pick Wood, and I pick Hunter so far. So, yeah, I picked Wood over me. That sucks. And then I pick Hunter so far. Your next one is Joel Walker, Texas Ranger versus Where's Kelsey and Sampson. This game has major implications. This could possibly be for last place in the league, pending how everything shakes out. I don't know if Sampson has set his roster officially. He got the huge waiver wire pickup of the week that I'm sure everybody wanted with Garindo from San Francisco. I know everybody was kind of trying to chirp in on him. I know I personally put a waiver out for him. I needed him bad. But, of course, Sampson slid him from underneath us. But right now, looking at this game, this one is predicted to be a landslide victory for Joel just because Sampson doesn't have his roster set. But I'll say this, looking at things, I still think Joel wins pretty big just because the bye weeks are smoking Sampson as well, just like they're smoking me. Bye weeks this late in the year suck. I mean, especially for fantasy football players, like there's nothing good that comes of this. This is going to be super detrimental to a lot of teams, and Sampson's one of those ones that it could possibly really hurt in the end. So I'm going to pick Joel to win that one just because bye weeks are screwing Sampson. Your next matchup is game of the week, in my opinion, because winner's getting a playoff spot. The winner gets a playoff spot. It's AI and Not Iris and Jake versus Tux's Army, Logan, both 7-6. Right now, Next Gen Stats has this one predicted to go 107-94 to Jake. As we break this down, we'll kind of have a clue about what's going on, with Jake's quarterback because he plays tomorrow. It's Herbert versus Love. You're looking at these running back rooms with Connor and Hubbard and Harrison Pollard. Hubbard's kind of, slowed down a little bit. The brakes have pumped on him. It's been the Bryce Young show in Carolina. They're playing Philadelphia too, which is a tough defense. James Conner's playing Seattle, another tough defense. I think his running backs probably have the better matchups. Elijah Moore, you want to talk about a guy that's been going crazy. What a story that these Browns receivers have been since Jameis Winston's taken over. Pickens has been a freak. Marvin Harrison's been a little bit of a letdown so far, but, I think that's something that's coming into fruition. It's kind of crazy. It's Michael Wilson versus Marvin Harrison here. We'll have to see how that goes. This game, I think it'll be a little bit closer than people are. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be like a 100-98 game. I do think that Jake has a little bit more firepower, but Logan's definitely got some home run guys. Like if Elijah Moore can go out there and do what he did last week, that could really, really help Logan secure this victory because Elijah Moore is currently only predicted 8 points, which is kind of a wild scenario to see. But once again, these bye weeks are detrimental to a fantasy team. Logan has guys on bye weeks that he should not have on bye weeks this week. Michael Pittman, Justin Tucker, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. Those are some big names that really hurt him. And it's going to really suck if Logan misses the playoffs because this late in the season, these bye weeks take over and Logan's trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find guys that can help him win. So I'm going to predict that Jake wins this and the bye weeks also screw Logan out of the playoffs possibly. Your next matchup is a very important matchup for multiple reasons. It's a team has no name, Tyler, who I need to win really bad. I need Tyler to win. Win, Tyler. versus They Called Me Crazy Lauren. Lauren was at the bottom last year, and now he's here. He's working himself back up. But typical Lauren fashion, who's his starting quarterback? That's right. Tighten up. Will Levis is over there throwing the rock. Now, right now, Lauren's predicted to win 96-85. Tyler does not currently have a quarterback in the lineup, which really sucks. But it is what it is. Lauren has some bye weeks. It'll be interesting to see how these guys finagle their system with their byes and their injuries and who's what and what's what. I'm going to predict that I'm going to go for Tyler just because I need Tyler to win. Lauren's predicted to win. I need Tyler to figure it out. I need him to figure it out. Your next matchup is Bad News Bears, LB versus ET Phone Home. But did he phone home? ETN didn't phone home this season very well. It's Greg versus LB, 107-93 in Greg's favor is what the prediction says right now. It's going to be interesting. A lot. LB went with Aaron Rodgers this season as his guy, and he's had a roller coaster. He's playing Miami. It'll be interesting. Burrow's playing Dallas. Burrow's been lights out, throwing the rock everywhere. LB needs this win bad, though, because, he could possibly face in the bottom. LB's running back room's great with Jacobs and Kyron Williams. I think he got somebody else, too. I can't remember who. Oh, yeah, no, he went crazy on, Zamir White, I think, and Zamir White let us all down in fantasy. As I look at this and kind of break things down, it does look Greg's got some empty spots. Ladd McConkey is unpredictable right now. I think I'm gonna go upset here. I'm gonna say LB finds a way to pull this one out of the hat. I don't know how. This is gonna be my upset of the week. I think LB pulls this one out of the hat and puts himself in one of those 7-6 or 7-7 positions to where he could potentially make playoffs if things fall his way. So LB, I'm predicting you there. Just because Ladd McConkey is 50-50 right now, that's just, who knows. Your next matchup is Chubby Chasen versus Stay on the Porch. You got Zach at 6-7 versus Taylor 8-5. This matchup matters tremendously for a lot of reasons in seeding. Right now, Zach's predicted to win 116-104. You've got some things that are affecting both teams here, too, with injuries. It'll be interesting to see how it pops out, but I do think Zach pulls this one out of the hat. Jerry Jeudy being rejuvenated has really helped this roster. Zach's team's not bad. If you look at it, it's actually pretty decent on paper. He shouldn't be towards the bottom, but that's where it is. Zach is the one that can have the most swing, though. This week, he could go from 12-6 very quickly if he wins and other things fall his way. So a 6-spot jump is huge. So I think Zach does beat Taylor, and he makes things interesting. Your last matchup could potentially be for last place, pending how it goes. You've got Tuna Fish Sticks versus Big DK Energy. You got Pawn and Eric. 5-8 Eric versus 6-7 Pawn. Right now, Next Gen Stats predicts Eric to win 98-88, a 10-point difference. Pawn has, I don't think Pawn's got his roster set fully yet. It'll be interesting to see if Jatavian Sanders comes out of the mud and plays this week. A lot of interesting characteristics going into this game that I see. You got Pat Mahomes, Kyler Murray. Pat's kind of on a cold year compared to what his years are in the past. You got Jerome Ford and Achane really sitting there for running back. You got Swift, Pacheco. Cup, Shakir, Moore, Metcalf. Metcalf's kind of banged up. It'll be interesting to see if he plays. Laporta had a great Thanksgiving. Rico is kind of coming in a little into his shell. I'm going to pick Eric here for now. I think Eric finds a way to win just to weasel himself out of that last place potential. And it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes. So as I was saying, that is kind of the week to week. This was a quick little podcast episode. Now let me make my predictions for the playoffs. So right now, if the season were to end today, you've already got your playoffs set. It would be Mr. Ken, Greg, Jake, Taylor, Logan, and Wood. Your two buys would be Mr. Ken and Wood. They would have your two buys. And then you would have Jake versus Greg in the quarterfinal and Taylor versus Logan in the quarterfinal. That's if it's predicted to go how it goes today. That's the top six. Obviously, Logan and Jake play, so that'll be mixed up a little bit. So here is what I'm going to do. I am going to predict who I think will be in the playoffs. I think Mr. Ken, Wood, Taylor, and Greg have secured their spot. I think they're safe. I think Jake will beat Logan this week and secure his spot. And then I think that Lauren will win. He will have 8 wins, and he will get the last spot of the playoffs this year. A man that was on the fence about playing. Had somebody draft for him. Talk about a redemption story. I think Lauren will get in the playoffs. And what's even crazier is I don't know if anybody really wants to see Lauren's team in the playoffs, because his team is now healthy with Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Puka Nacua, Jordan Addison, George Kittle, T. Higgins. These guys could possibly wreak some havoc in the playoffs. So I'm going to say Lauren gets in the playoffs. Logan will be the first team out. Kind of like college football playoffs, you'll have first team out. Maybe Logan will get some Bama bias here. Roll Tide. Maybe Logan will get some Bama bias in, and the committee will put him in just because maybe his fan base travels better and they make more money. And, maybe they'll base it off head to head. Maybe they'll base it off how the end of the season worked. We don't know. I'm over here right now sitting. I'm a sitting duck. I'm Miami. I'm praying for everybody to lose and me to find a way to win. That's what I'm at. And then the rest of those guys, it's so interesting to see how it all. So many things can still happen in this league this week. Usually you have your predetermined things already set. There's so much that can happen. Guys, I love y'all. Sorry that this season I haven't been the best at doing this podcast stuff. I have been extremely busy Monday through Friday. I'm busy on the weekends too, but I'm going to have a little bit more wiggle because I'm only working one job. But between editing podcasts and doing live streams and all my sports betting stuff and working at the school, it has been exhausting. So I appreciate your patience. I apologize once again. I promise you that I'm trying to get this going full time again, especially before next season. Hopefully have a new setup for you guys. Also, I need you guys' help. If you guys would be so kind to volunteer as guests. Nobody wants to just see me talk by myself. It's cool to have people to interview and ask questions to, do different things with on here, kind of make it unique. I can always edit graphics and things like that. But this right here, it gives us an opportunity to do something that, I don't know, it's fun. It's a way to keep the brotherhood alive and a way to make this league unique. So, guys, I appreciate you guys. Once again, I apologize this season for my inconsistency with this. It's been a fun first season in there. I'm thankful for you guys allowing me to be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this week shakes out. So best of luck to everyone, except Lauren. I hope you lose so I can get in. And Wood, remember, you owe me a favor or 7. Let me win. All right, until next time, Innsbrooke Fantasy Podcast, we're out.